Well, it's good to see you this morning. I want to just share a little bit for those who are new today. I know we have some guests. We have some others who may be joining us online for the first time. This is going to be a very different kind of service. We normally sing more songs. We normally would share a message from God's Word. But what we're doing today is we felt it was very important, our leadership of our church, to in a Sunday morning gathering share a vision that we believe God is giving us for our church building. And the reason we felt it was important we could have just done a membership meeting, but not everyone who attends here and considers this church home is a member. But we wanted to share with the entire intergenerational church family the vision that really is the culmination of many, many years of work. And God has been so faithful to us that even after 2020, we can still share this because God has provided for this church family. So we're going to be sharing today. If you're new, my name's Mark. I'm the lead pastor here at Peoria Nazarene. You're also going to hear from Jeremy Collins, an architect from Farnsworth, who also calls this church his home since, I think, 2015, actually. And we have been so blessed by I could say, hundreds of volunteer hours that he has given the church, in addition to our contract with Farnsworth. So we consider ourselves incredibly blessed to have him. And you're also going to be hearing today from Ken Rote, who is our board secretary, also serves on our finance committee, and he's going to be bringing an update as well. But we are so excited to share with you a vision that we believe that could prepare the church for years to come. So what I want to share with you today is, just as we begin, a little bit of the history of this. I know that many of you, in fact, most of you, this may be something that you've heard before. In fact, if you've attended the church any time in the past, really 10 years since 2010, you've heard of a building project. In fact, if we were to go back in time, 2010 to 2017, there was this growing awareness of a project that was needed. And so 2010 to 2017, there's this awareness. In fact, it led to the development of many different concepts. So as we began to discern a need, we began together through building committees and different boards and even different pastors, we began to develop what we thought could be potential answers to developing and addressing the needs in our church. In fact, in November of 2018, we really had a pivotal moment as a church family. In 2018, we gathered together and really launched our first fundraising for a building project. We called it the Foundation Building Project, and we are so thankful for the faithfulness of all who gave. We believe it takes everyone to come together in a church family, and so many people gave in various ways. And through that, we were able to fundraise a sizable amount of dollars to help us do something we had never done before. We had never gone forward with construction drawings since 2010, and construction drawings cost money. They're expensive. So in March of 2019, after that fundraiser, the church board appointed a building committee. This consisted of laity, 7 members, served on that committee, and that committee tasked 4 additional subcommittees: children, safety, security, office, and connections. And those committees consisted of over 20 people, the majority of which were lay persons. So we felt it was important after the foundation launch that we really take time before we move to construction drawings to really make sure that our project is addressing the needs of the church. So we listened to the intergenerational church family, and really because of that, what we discovered is that the foundation campaign was addressing some key needs, but it also was overlooking some really big needs that we have that you're going to hear about that weren't in that plan. And so really what we've done is we've expanded that project to a bigger vision that really says we believe God has called us here on the corner of Austin and University in this building. And we're going to shift our vision as we follow God to a long-term vision. So we're going to make a bigger investment in this property for the years to come. So we're excited to share more about that with you. So March 2019 was the beginning of that building committee and those subcommittees of over 20 people. And then in July 2019, we gathered as a board to really ask ourselves, we need to make sure we crystal clear understand our vision, so that everything we do in a building project connects back to why we exist. And you've been hearing a lot about that. I'm going to share more about that in a minute. June 2020, the church board gathered and took action on hiring Farnsworth Group. Jeremy had been volunteering for over 6 months then, about 8 months, in developing concepts for us, and we made a decision to officially bring on Farnsworth Group as our architect to prepare plans that were based on the feedback from the various committees. Then in August 2020, the church board approved and in action the concept drawings that were prepared by Farnsworth. October 2020, then the church board approved construction drawings. Now, I'm going to pause there because this is very significant that even though we have done the foundation campaign in the past, we had never got to this point, and we approved construction drawings. And just to show you the level of investment the board placed in this, that amount comes total for concept drawings and construction drawings for the project we're going to show you today at about $90,000. So the commitment, in order for us, the belief that the board has in this project is expressed in those particular actions. And then in November 2020, we decided to work with McDaniels Marketing. Randy McDaniels is a follower of Jesus based out of Pekin to help us communicate this vision and to expand that so that many people can come to know specifically how they can be a part of this. And then in March 2021, our finance committee was tasked by our board to determine the feasibility. Now that we have the construction drawings, can we afford this? And the finance committee developed a plan that you're going to hear about today coming from Ken Rote. And then just last month, we received all of our project bids for the subcontractors, for our general contractor as well, and we have our cost analysis complete. So that is where we find ourselves today. So I want to share with you that in 2020, although we couldn't gather in person, there is a lot that was happening, and a lot of work has been done. I'm going to share at the end where I believe God could be leading us forward. But I just want to take a moment before I invite Jeremy to come and to share what you most want to see, and that is the vision of this project. I want to remind you today of our mission and our vision. It is so vitally important that whatever we do is rooted in this, and we believe that this plan addresses those things. So first of all, I've been sharing with you, our mission is to connect people to God's love. This church has always had this mission, even though we may not have articulated it this way. Since 1925, this has been a church that is passionate about connecting all people to God's love. We have weathered many, many years as a church family, many seasons, and God has been faithful to us in accomplishing this mission. This is the what that God has called us to do. Our heart, our core values, these are those things that drive us in this mission, and that is we are so committed to connecting people to God's love because we care about people. If you're new here, it doesn't take long until we start hearing this feedback. And I didn't create this. I believe the Holy Spirit has made this church to be a very caring church. You find yourself saying that this is a church that I feel like I can belong there. So we've expressed that in community. We are an intergenerational church family. We value community. We value being intergenerational. Authenticity. We are a welcoming church. When you come here, you can come as you are. You're welcome to belong with us. We value that genuineness. Relationships, even though we value community as a whole, being an intergenerational church, we value each and every individual relationship that we share in the church family. And then finally, I think Peoria Nazarene shines in empathy. When people face difficult times, this is a church family that is committed, especially in those times, to keeping people connected to God's love. So that's our heartbeat. That's our values that expresses why we as a church connect people to God's love. And then our calling that I've been sharing, this has to do with the how. What's the overarching strategy that touches every part of the church of how we're going to go about collectively connecting people to God's love? And we've expressed this through these three words: belong, trust, and love. God calls all of us to belong. And we want everyone to belong in our gatherings. That's primarily our worship. So it's important that we gather as a collective church to worship the risen Christ. We want everyone to belong in those gatherings. But then we realize that trusting in Christ happens best, not in big gatherings, but in those smaller communities. So we want everyone to be part of a smaller community where they can trust Christ and they can grow through those kind of relationships. And then lastly, God calls all of us to love others. As we love Him, we're called to love others, and we do that in ministries, working together to share God's love, to connect people inside the church and outside the church. This expresses the how we connect people to God's love. Peoria Nazarene has been a church that has served our community through generous love, outreach, partnership, and diverse relationships. One of the things that our board has talked about that significantly shapes this project is we believe that our location here in this 1 acre lot, if you will, in this building is not a missional limitation. For 46 years we've been in this building, and God has used this church family to reach countless people to be connected to his love. And we've really, as we prayerfully thought about all options on the table, we believe that this location here, this highly visible location right across from ICC, is not a missional limitation. We believe that God has blessed us. He's given us the tools and abilities to go out and serve Peoria as he calls us to continue to connect people to his love. He has helped us do this for almost 100 years now, 96 years, and we believe that for generations to come, this mission is still vitally important for us. So I know you've heard enough from me. You'll hear more from me later. But I'm honored to welcome Jeremy Cowlins. He's going to come and share specifically about the project that has been developed by our church board and the building committee. So will you do me a favor and express our gratitude for Jeremy and his many hours of work as he comes and shares with us about this project. Let's welcome him.
You know, getting up in front of this family every week, that's not an easy thing. Well, thank you all. I appreciate the warm welcome. This place is home. You know, it has been for many years now. And as part of that, seeing our family develop, seeing our missions develop, and our goals. You taking my water? Is that your water? That's my water. He wants me to stop talking sooner. That's so I can keep going. Oh. That's right. That's all right. So this building has served our family since 1975. Pastor mentioned, you know, we've had a lot of outreach here. As we've gone through that process over the past several years, you know, it seems like there's only been more revelation to what God has in store for us. Using this building to be able to welcome our community, to be able to welcome family members, to be able to make connections with those who haven't been here before. You know, and to do that, we looked at where have we been, what do we have, okay? As many of you know, you come up from our parking lot, and the first thing you're greeted with are kind of these long, narrow corridors. You know, they've got lovely rooms on them. The children are upstairs. It's great to see the kids. But it's really hard to know where you're going. You know, as a visitor, there's some hesitancy there. There's some, you know, uncomfortableness of, okay, I've arrived, but where's my destination? Where do I get to the sanctuary? You know, we see that as we go through the upstairs. We see that, you know, again, as we go through some of the downstairs areas. But talking about that flow, you know, we want everybody to be together. We want to come in at the same point, at the same location. We want our visitors to know where to come in. Architecturally, you know, the canopy out here is the typical signal for most people of the arrival point. But that's not where we enter our building. Our building is off our main parking lot and our beautiful back stairs. And so that becomes a difference. It becomes, you know, a confusion area for visitors. After we come in those doors, we are an intergenerational family. You know, we want to be able to get everybody to the same place at the same time. And for those of you that have used our current enclosed lift, you know, you don't go in there without a bottle of water and a cell phone and maybe somebody else in the building because the doors may or may not open all the time right away. Nobody's gotten left overnight. It's okay. But it's a challenge. It's a challenge for visitors. It's a challenge for, our current older members of the congregation. We come upstairs and come around the hallways and, some of the challenges we have that block us, the current HVAC system, the bathroom. Many of you probably don't know the men's bathroom upstairs doesn't even have an ADA stall in it. It's also kind of awkwardly located right on the main corridor. It was a beautiful building for its time. It is a bit dated from the exterior. You see things like the old lava stone, the older sign that's located out here on University. Those aren't challenges to those of us that call this home, but to bring in new visitors, to find a welcoming spirit and something that invites the neighborhood to come see us, that does present a challenge. We like to get together. We like to have meals. We like to fellowship. And so we get done with service and we head out. Where do we go? We've got a long kind of dark, narrow stair down to our lower level. Whether that's to pick the children up or to head down for an afternoon meal, it's not conducive to traveling back and forth well. Our current children's spaces have been very well loved for many years. They have some of the oldest flooring in the building, the older carpet. The spaces are fairly small and inflexible. As we look forward, as we look to growing the family, as we look to growing our outreach, we see a need for more flexibility. It's not just the children's area, but throughout other areas, we have many small rooms that don't allow us some of that opportunity to adapt it to our current needs. I mentioned earlier, we like to get together and eat, right? Everybody, for those that can remember back here a couple of years, it's always full down there at a mealtime. So full that there's not necessarily room for everybody to gather together and to eat together. Sometimes you end up with others eating in some of the classrooms. So why are we doing what we're doing? I've touched on it a little bit. We want to be together. The last year has really shown us this church has a desire to connect. It has a desire to be together, whether that's those that are online or those that are here in person. We want to stay connected. With the remodel, we have the opportunity to open up our floor plan, to create opportunities for people to connect in different groups and different sizes. We'll look at kind of where we are right now. We talked about, and I apologize for those online, I'm going to use a laser pointer, but, we come in off the parking lot, and you've only got one choice of where to go, but you can't see your destination. You can't see the sanctuary. You have to go down a long hallway, take a hard left, and then about the time you get 2/3 of the way down the hall, you finally see the sanctuary doors. Opening up those sight lines, being able to arrive, being able to instantly know where you're wanting to go, even if that's not your intermediate destination, knowing where your final destination is comforting. Provides guests and visitors with a sense of welcome. We've got several opportunities to gather, in different spaces, in different sizes, some formal, some informal. We've got access that brings everybody together, whether it's from the parking lot next door and coming in the university side, or from the main parking lot where most everybody comes in. Both provide opportunities for accessible entrances. Right now, that's difficult with our current configurations. These are the things I find exciting. You get to see them in 3D and color. I'm a bit of a geek, though. It's okay. As we look down to the lower level where we like to gather, right now we come in the stairs down here and through the double doors and down the long corridor, and then finally arrive at our open space where we get to gather and we get to eat. Otherwise, if you're coming in off the parking lot, there's We've got a door down here, and you arrive at the kitchen area. Functionally, most of you know that's not really how we use that space. As we look at, maybe, there we go. We queue up through the little rooms right there for meals and head around the kitchen. And so it makes a lot of sense to formalize that relationship. The kitchen is what it is right now. Nobody's touching it. It's in good shape. But we really open up these areas between Fellowship Hall and opening up these classrooms down here into a new youth commons with large open corridors and openings that allow everything to flow together, to feel like more like one big open space. It will almost double our seating area for meals if we wanted to. At the same time, both upstairs and downstairs, we provide new restrooms that are more easily located for everybody to get to and more sized more appropriately for the capacity during Sunday services. In the existing children's area, as you know, we come downstairs right into the current children's area, and you either head up toward the dining area, fellowship hall area, or into the children's wing. Some of the concerns we heard from the groups were security, having our children safe, having the building safe, and having a stairway that goes right down into children's ministry is not ideal. So we've looked at what are those opportunities to create more security points if we need them, both as a formal relationship and kind of an informal relationship. And as part of that, kids need bathrooms, right? We've got ones up here. We're going to bring everybody downstairs into one location, all of the kids together. We've got bathrooms that are located for the children's area behind the current set of double doors, eliminating that current stairwell, creating a very open, more daylit, more inviting stairwell. And the opportunity that if we want to, we can lock this down after the service starts. We've got a gathering area either inside that secured area, or we've got the youth commons outside of the secured area where parents can wait after a service to pick the kids up. And from the exterior, the building makes a lot of sense from kind of basic planning, but it doesn't make sense how it sits on our site for how we use it. Our front door, and that was one of the big realizations as we went through these conversations, is not university. Our front door is our parking lot, and that's where we want to greet everybody. Most times we don't send people over to our house and head in the back door. So we look at what are those opportunities? What are we looking to do in making connections? And by creating an outdoor patio, we really have the opportunity to activate the university side of our building for the community to see us gathering, for them to see that there's a space. There's also a level of passive security in that right now, our rear doors to the sanctuary have a big canopy there, and people naturally tend to want to go to that point. With this, we preserve the daylight, we preserve the views, the openness of the church, but we've created psychologically a different entry point for the building. This is a patio, but this isn't where you're just going to want to go every time you think, hey, where do I want to go in that building? By creating those spaces, by allowing the city to see who we are and how we gather, that creates a welcoming environment. It creates a lively environment. The property we're sitting on has hundreds of cars every day passing by. And for the building to be able to be part of that missional outreach is an incredible opportunity. So going through some of the details, and I know I've talked through quite a bit of them, but the goal is to open up the floor plan, to create more space, more room for members, more room for guests, as well as create an opportunity for us to enjoy God's creation and the beauty around us. We're creating a space that is more in line with the mission and that makes it easier to navigate for guests and easier to welcome those that are not necessarily here every week. It's not a new building. We're adding a stair, but that's it. We're investing in where we are. This is simply renovating the existing structure we have to better suit our current mission. So as part of that, we talked about more flexible gathering spaces throughout the building. And here's the fun stuff. You get to see some of the pictures of it, right? So this is sitting back here by the sanctuary doors where the Welcome Center is and looking toward room 200. What you don't see here are is the big corridor here with the bathrooms and the furnaces. You see a nice wide open view where you can see from across the room who you want to go talk to, or head over and grab a cup of coffee, or sit by the fireside and chat with a friend. Part of the new culture is not necessarily sitting in the sanctuary during a service, but having opportunities, whether it's for parents or for teens or others, to sit in the building and enjoy the service with us. And we've created several places where that could happen. This is what we're calling the new Fireside Room, which would be just on the opposite side of the wall here to my right, looking out toward University. Currently, that is the toddlers area that you never really see. But we've got some nice spaces here, some nice opportunities to create some both formal and informal, some casual connections with members. The Youth Commons downstairs, which is, basically from the Welcome Center all the way back to this wall on the lower level. Currently, there is a couple small rooms, a hallway, and a couple classrooms that we circulate through during most of the meal times. And really creating a big open, lively space, somewhere that everybody can enjoy and hang out. So better wayfinding I've touched on a little bit. We really want to be as inviting of a group and a family as we can. By being able to come up the stairs and know where you're going to go or where to find the coffee. I like coffee, so that's important. That is part of what makes us welcoming and inviting. It's part of what gives people comfort in coming to join the church family here. Down in Fellowship Hall, we're opening up. You can see some of those sight lines back to the Youth Commons area, the new large hallway, breaking up some of that long wall that's down there with a new larger hallway helps to break up some of that space and make it not feel like one big separated room, but allow it to flow together with the Youth Commons area as well. So this is in the Children's Wing Ministry area. This is that gathering area looking down, basically right at me toward the stage area below us, and creating some larger flexible classrooms, along with a worship space of their own that is essentially underneath the stage area here, allowing them a lot more space to gather, a lot more space to worship. This is just another view of that gathering area. So we talked about being able to enjoy God's beauty, and part of that is bringing more natural light into the building. For many years, the burlap drape has been on the back wall, and as part of these upgrades, we're looking at creating a cowl wall panel system that is translucent in nature, a cross up on the wall, to help people, understand what our mission is. Bring more light into the building. Really enjoy the world around us. So looking at the coffee area, which would be just on the other side of the Welcome Center right now. Some large visual graphics to help reinforce our mission, reinforce our vision. Some areas where we can gather, we can have donuts, we can have coffee on a regular basis. Actually, one thing I do want to go back to is one of the challenges that we heard from several of the groups was creating more height out here in the hallways. Our rafters, the structure that makes up our roof, sits right above the drywall that's out there right now. One of the team members that I work with came up with an incredibly creative solution, which is to move that drywall to the top of the bottom cord of that truss, which is what you're seeing here. And while it gives us a few inches, it really creates a sense of space. It creates some excitement, some interest, gives us an opportunity to recess some light fixtures up there a little higher and create some interest as you go through the space. Having a centralized children's area was very important to the focus groups. An area that could be secured if needed, something that was flexible and that families could feel comfortable dropping their young ones off at. As you can see here, we've created some much more open rooms. Rooms that can be broken down with furniture as the age groups change over the years or as the need for adaptation becomes apparent. And of course, the new worship space. I'm actually really excited about this. The current room they're in is one of the larger rooms down there, but this will almost triple the current area that they have now to worship. And to be able to jump around and run around and sing those praises is an incredible opportunity for our children. We've talked about the new main entrance and reinforcing that with a canopy and really looking at that arrival sequence. One thing here you'll see is as you arrive, we've made this as open as we can. The new lift that would be installed is an open lift. It stops at kind of the height of the standard stairway. It does not go all the way to the ceiling. It'll allow that entry to feel more open, replacing the existing drywall handrails with open railings. Again, making everything more open, more welcoming, more inviting. And one of the early concepts looking outside is the idea of bringing some of the beauty that we have here in the sanctuary and tying that together with what's going on with the new canopy. And I think in the final design here, you really start to see that. You start to see some of these beams that are coming up and over and really reinforce those relationships. So the new stair tower, I did mention, it will allow us better access to communicate between the first floor and the lower level. Easier flow for both width of the stair, be able to move more people at one time, but it also provides us a lot of light into our space. It'll provide us the opportunity for nice access to our patio area as well and create a big, beautiful front to our building, create a little more modern appearance and tie some of the aesthetics of that stair tower into the existing structure as we cover the lava stone. Another view of our patio. If you're wondering, there is a drive that is maintained over here that is primarily for funeral services, for those that might be wondering. We have thought through both, the final arrangements and the new beginnings with weddings, and there's a lot of these spaces that are adaptable and speak to multiple events throughout our church family's life. And so I won't get into the weeds on that, but that has been thought about. And as we update the rest of our building and the exterior, we look at the signage and how did we tell people we're here? We're looking at new signage, very visible signage on the stair tower, which is a similar location to our existing sign. One of the challenges is if you see that sign coming up University, you've already passed Austin. You're not getting in here. So really, we want to take that opportunity to create some new signage, one at the parking lot area and one at the corner of University in Austin, so that you know when you arrive. Before you've passed it, you can turn in and come join us. Better ADA access both upstairs and downstairs. We talked about the restrooms. We talked about the new open lift. And really a complete replacement and upgrade of our HVAC systems.
What's ADA?
American with Disabilities Act. So that really, thank you, Pete. That really talks to the fact that some of the population is less mobile than others. And that's not just the older generation, but there's younger generations. There's veterans that have been wounded. Sometimes that's a cane or a walker. Sometimes, it might be a birth defect. Sometimes it might be a wheelchair, which is what most people think about, but it really goes far beyond that. And the idea of being inclusive and being welcoming to all. As we look at our HVAC system, it was one of the challenges of opening up the floor plan. And it's also an older system that has required a lot of maintenance over the years and made a lot of sense as part of this expansion of the scope to really dive into that and really create an opportunity out of what was a challenge. So I want to just touch base on kind of some of the key points that came out of really the focus groups. And that is, the safety, the security, accessibility, functionality, and relevance. Make sure I don't miss these here. But, just because of the age of the building doesn't necessarily necessitate that it has to be remodeled. This is really about looking at how we use our building, what our mission is, what our vision is, and making the facilities an opportunity to enhance those goals. Looking at creating a secured area for the children, creating areas that are easily accessible, both ingress and egress, whether it's the sanctuary or the commons area or some of the other areas, opportunities if we needed to take shelter where we could. Functionality, really that flexibility, the opportunity to change and adapt the environment for what we want to do when we want to do it. Right now, we have a lot of things that are very inflexible. We can't move them around. We can't adapt them for both small groups and large groups and turn those around pretty quickly. And finally, relevance. We want to keep up the appearance that, we're on top of things. We're here. We're current. As soon as you walk in these doors, and you meet this group of people, the outside doesn't matter, but we still want to get people in the doors. Ken, you're going to have to bring your own water.
Yeah, thank you. So my name is Ken Rote, and I serve, as Mark mentioned, as the board secretary, along with a few other responsibilities here at the church. So you've heard about the what. I'm going to tell you about the how, which is kind of, where the rubber meets the road. Beautiful plans that come at a cost, right? Okay. Right now, we're looking at an estimated cost of $1.5 million to complete the project. While we understand this is a significant increase from the initial estimates of the original project, we firmly believe investing this money will enable us to be who God is calling us to be for generations to come. The available cash on hand of $300,000 and the construction line of credit of $1.2 million will allow the church to begin phase 1 of the project upon approval from the church board and the congregation. Okay, as Mark mentioned earlier, this project has been in the planning stages since around 2011. Back then, plans only addressed items such as a new stairwell, opening up hallway spaces, and improving the front of the building. Those were the 3 big things that we looked at back in the early days. And as Jeremy just brought up, several important items were missing, such as the inaccessibility of the main entrance, our costly HVAC systems, which is heating, ventilating, and air conditioning, if you don't know. So that is, that's your furnace, and that's your air conditioners, and all the ways that those, the air is vented through your building. That's the HVAC system. And our inadequate bathrooms that restrict and hinder our layout for connections. So we believe this new floor plan addresses our needs and sets us up for future generations. We're hoping to begin the remodel in August of 2021, so just in a few months, and complete it 18 months later in early 2023, just in time for our church's 100th anniversary, as Mark had mentioned. So, in order to fund the $1.5 million project, we're planning to secure money from 2 additional sources, a long-term loan and from fundraising. As mentioned before, the church has proven it has the capability to pay back borrowed funds back in the early days when we first moved into this building. The Northwest Illinois District, which is the district that we belong to as this local church, may approve the church to borrow up to $800,000 based on our annual budget. So they they have a say in how much a local church can become indebted. Though we're conservatively looking to borrow closer to $600,000. So you don't see the $800,000, you see the $600,000 in my further slides. So just as a point of reference, and this is really ironic, I think, in 1976, after the current building was constructed, our local church took out a long-term loan of $330,000 on a 30-year note. So considering inflation over the past 45 years, this $330,000 amount in today's dollars would be close to $1.5 million. It's kind of ironic, isn't it? Back then, we were able to pay back that loan ahead of schedule, thanks to the giving of our members and generous donors who believed in the mission of our church and wanted to give to it. I just think it's really ironic that we're dealing with almost the same amount of loan to remodel. But that gives you a little sense of what we've done in the past as a church. Right now, donations are regularly being received at the amount of $2,500 per month from our church's general giving budget. So our our local church is giving to this fund based on our budget, and an estimated additional $1,500 per month from individual designated giving. So people in our congregation are currently giving towards this fund. This results in a total of $4,000 per month going directly into our building project. This regular giving is happening right now and has been for many months. So again, as another point of reference, a monthly payment of $4,000 roughly equates to a loan of $600,000. We kind of did that on purpose. Okay. So now we're going to switch to the focus on fundraising. So I dealt with borrowing and the long-term loan and what we're planning on there. So when it comes to fundraising, this is where the congregation of faith comes in. This is where we step in as a total generation, as a total congregation. We're looking to raise an additional $600,000 through donations and offerings. In a few days, if the project is given full approval, we'll kick off an 18-month capital campaign during which we're calling on current members and attenders, all of us here, and on our alumni, people who have been here in the past, to give to our church's mission. It's important to note that this isn't one person's project. We're all in this together. This is a project for future generations that will be transformational. The remodeling of our church will enable us and others to better serve our God and fulfill His calling for us. We firmly believe that. So now I have just an example table. This is kind of what you typically see in some kind of fundraising activity where it breaks down all these giving levels, okay? And this is just an example. It's not been firmed up. We've determined the number of givers or number of donors needed at various giving amounts to reach our goal of $600,000. We've broken it down into multiple giving levels. So, for example, if we can get 2 people to give $25,000, and 3 people to give $20,000, and 4 people to give $15,000, and so on, all the way to the bottom, then we can reach our 18-month fundraising goal of $600,000. But, this is very important, we must not focus only on the top rows of the table. I just started there for the sake of clarity. Faithful giving has no income limits. Weekly gifts of $20 or $15 can also be found on rows on this example table. Your financial support is valued no matter the amount. So in summary, the project cost is $1.5 million, and our cash on hand is $300,000. We plan to borrow $600,000 as a final long-term loan, and we plan to raise an additional $600,000 in cash over the next 18 months. This is the takeaway that you need to leave here with. We will share these more details regarding the fundraising effort in upcoming communications and during a special Commitment Sunday on July 11th. Mark that on your calendars. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Before we go, I want to share with you just a spiritual reflection on why we should give now, why we should invest. Why does it matter that at this point in the church history that this generation would respond to this call? But before I do, you should have received on your chair a comments question. We realize that in this format to present to you, it doesn't allow for feedback, but we very, very much want your feedback. So please, questions, comments, write them down. I'm going to share in a moment about an opportunity where you can come for open mic for discussion. And then before you leave, there's a table at the back that we want you to leave these at. But I just want to talk with you about why we should consider investing now. 46 years ago, there was a generation that many of whom are still alive. There are individuals who would remember this time that made tremendous sacrifices. As Ken shared, a $330,000 loan, which would be equate to 1.5 approximate million. That's a big number back then. Their raised for all purposes was $77,000. So that means their annual budget, factoring in inflation, was $360,000. So that generation made a tremendous sacrifice to build this building. And for 46 years, this has been a place where people can connect to God's love. And so we have an opportunity as we look forward. We are connected, and that's what I want you to catch this morning, is that generation we are connected to very, very closely. Their sacrifices, the culture, even our mission has been shaped by that previous generation. We've been tremendously blessed by their sacrifices and what they have done that has gone before us. In fact, Pastor James Hazelwood, I had the blessing of officiating his funeral here in this building just a few years ago. Visiting him and listening to him. For 10 years he pastored, and he led us with that church board to build this particular building. A moment in time, a pivotal moment of faith. That congregation said, we need to invest here so this could be a place for people to connect to God's love for generations to come. And here we are, 46 years later. Now, it's significant to me as we think about this, the sacrifice of those who have gone before us. I think it's significant as we think about the timing of this. The church was founded in Peoria in 1925, and it was on its 50th anniversary that Pastor Hazelwood and that church board led to this project. When we turned 50 years old, they moved into this facility to prepare for the next generation of ministry. And here we are, just 4 years away from turning 100 years old. And we have an opportunity. Will the ministry of this church go forward? Will we prepare our facility to facilitate our mission to connect people to God's love? We have a tremendous opportunity to do that together as a church family as we approach our 100th anniversary. Galatians 6:10, when I think of the faith of those who have gone before, this is one passage that comes to mind. Therefore, as we have an opportunity, let us do good to all people, especially to those who belong to the family of believers. And I really believe we do have an opportunity. As Ken has shared and others, this is not a project that when I became pastor here, I was aware just in my first days that there was talks on the board and there was a lot of work on a project, so the need was already there. This is not a pastor's project. It's not Jeremy's project, Ken's. But we have an opportunity to look at our facility and to completely renovate it together in faith, believing that God will provide. One of the things that struck me is just last week I talked to Betty Hazelwood. And Betty Hazelwood, Pastor Hazelwood's wife, and we were talking through these things. I was asking for her to pray for us as we face this moment. And one of the things she shared with me is she said, Pastor Hazelwood never had to beg for money. She said, we believed that God would provide, and he provided for us. And he was faithful to this church. And as Ken shared, 10 years ahead of schedule, we paid off that loan, and God provided. And this church's ministry has thrived for the past 46 years in this facility. So number one, what I would ask is your pastor, but more important is as somebody who loves this church very deeply. I've been here 6 years. Would you pray with me about this project? Would you pray for the future of our church? Would you pray that God will give us wisdom and how we have an opportunity? We're at a point of decision. A lot of work has happened, and a lot of you have said, is this project ever going to happen? Are we ever going to do something? Well, we are at a place of decision. and we have an opportunity to do good. And would you pray with me that God would open our eyes, that He'd give us wisdom, and that He would fill our hearts with faith. We have thought very deeply, analytically about this because we want to make good decisions as a leadership, but also we have to think through the eyes of faith. Because faith is when we can't see. Boy, that's a big number. This is a big God-sized vision. But faith is where we have the ability, as we look at how big our God is, to believe that He can help us, just as He did in the past. What separates us from Pastor Hazelwood and that generation? Does God love us any less? Has God's ability and power to provide, has it diminished? No, the same God who helped us in the past will help us again. So I want to invite you to pray with us on that. Here's the decision that is before us, and we want to be as transparent about this as possible. And I'm going to talk about this. The board is meeting this Tuesday to consider this action. They have already seen this project. Just last week, they were presented with the full project again. The board is going to consider this motion. It's a motion to approve the Connecting Generations building project as discussed, which includes these important points: the approval of the construction drawing package, the approval of the capital campaign, the approval of a construction line of credit of $1.2 million. We don't intend on borrowing that much, but that is needed for our district for us to be able to begin the project while the money is still coming in. And then finally, an approval of a final long-term loan of $600,000. That's the amount that we intend on borrowing. Having said that, wouldn't it be awesome if God would bless us where we didn't need to borrow that much money? And it's possible as we continue to pray and consider what God would have us to do. So what does it look like for us to move forward together in faith? And this is significant because this is where we are. Today we're presenting to you. This Tuesday, our church board gathers, and they've already discussed this, and we are going to make a decision as a church board. That is an 11-person church board that together is going to vote on this project. So that's this Tuesday. So be praying for them as God has brought us to this moment of decision. And then Wednesday, June 9th, and we'll send out reminders about this. We want to invite everyone, whether you're an attender or whether you're a member, whether you're online, to come here in the sanctuary. 6:30 p.m. we have a FAQ meeting where we're going to take all the questions and comments you submit. And if you're online, I made a comment on the Facebook live stream. You can send questions to office@peorianazarene.com. We want those. Fill out your cards, and we're going to go over those questions because we want every question. We want every comment. And then in that meeting, we'll have refreshments that'll be provided, dessert, not a full meal, but just some things to eat to keep you awake at that time in the day. And then we'll present, and then we're going to open the mic as well because we want anyone who has questions to come and to speak, and we'll answer those as a panel the best that we can. So that's a very important day. And then Friday, June 11th, we're having an all-day church of prayer. You're going to hear more about that. I've been working some with Cindy Shepard on that as well, but likely have a space here in the morning early if anybody wants to come and pray, but opening up our facility if you want to come by and pray. And whether you are here in the building or at home, we're asking most importantly in your heart that you would pray as well. And then that's significant because after the service on Sunday, June 13th, we are going to have a membership meeting to approve the project. So if God leads the board to go forward with this project, as He's been leading us to this point today, Sunday, June 13th, our membership, 15 years and older, will have an opportunity to vote on this project. Now, our manual requires a 2/3 majority vote for us to move forward on a project, and you'll be approving that motion that I put on the screen that the board is considering. So that's significant. And I want to say that even if you're not a member, we've talked about this, we would like you to be a part of that meeting. And also that we want to give you an opportunity to vote as well. That vote doesn't count to the actual decision in terms of membership, but it matters to our leadership for everyone who attends this church to have that feedback. So we want everyone to be a part of this. That'll be following the service, so right at 11:30 next Sunday. So again, I want to make you aware of that. And then Friday, June 18th, we have it lined up to get approval of this project with the district. And if this moves through the membership, we're within the general guidelines. So again, we're following the district guidance, so that is likely to happen if we take this step. And here's the significant, as Ken mentioned, July 11th, we would launch our capital campaign. We would be asking for you to be praying about what kind of a gift God may be calling you, what kind of pledge that he may be calling. So we're going to be giving more information about that leading up to Sunday, July 11th. And then lastly, August of 2021. And so this is where we are. If we decide to move forward, our builder has already got his schedule cleared. August of 2021, this project starts. So I want to make that really clear, because even as I presented to the board and some new individuals on the board, it's, okay, we've talked about projects before, but when? And so this is very significant. If God leads us through this, August of 2021, our builder says he is ready to start this project. 18 months of consecutive construction in different areas to see this project come to a fruition. So that's where we are. We are at a moment in time, a point of decision. So I know this is a lot of information to take in, but we felt it was important. Because if we're going to take this step together, it's going to have to be all of us. It's going to take every one of us together. This moment in time, it's not just going to be a few of us, but all of us. And so we wanted to communicate that today. We believe that this can be and should be an act of worship. As followers of Jesus and individually, we follow him with all of our heart. All of our life we surrender to him. And as a church family, this building, it doesn't belong to me. It'll be here long after I'm gone. It doesn't belong to any one of us. God has entrusted to us this space, this highly visible space. And so we want you to approach this with your mind. Be thinking. We need those questions. But I would challenge you, let's approach it with our hearts too. And let's remember that all that we are and all that we have belongs to the Lord. And we have an opportunity. And let's be in prayer together, and let's invite God to lead us as we face this important decision. So just a reminder again, be praying for our board on Tuesday. Don't forget about the FAQ meeting on Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. If you have any questions in the meantime, you're always welcome to talk to us. But we're looking forward to that gathering, and then prayer on Friday, membership meeting next week. So again, thank you. You've been so wonderful, and I'm looking at the clock, and I thought it'd be closer to noon when we were wrapping up, but right now it's just 11:40. So I want to thank you again. I'm going to invite you to stand with me. If you're a guest, let me also remind you, this is not our normal format. So you're going to have to come back next week to be a part of our normal format. But we're glad to be able to share these things with you. Let's close in prayer. Father in heaven, we thank you just to have the opportunity to consider this. And Lord, while this is a big vision, we are here today in this building because of a previous generation that dreamed a very big dream. It was a dream that really that generation wouldn't be the generation that would fully benefit from. Although they did, it would be this generation that would reap the benefits of those sacrifices. And as we consider this vision, Lord, we believe that everyone who served and all the long work over a decade now has come to this moment where we do have an opportunity to go forward. And so, Father, I pray that you'd be with every member of this church. Father, I pray you'd be with those who consider this their church home, but they're not a member. You would be with each and every one of us as we prayerfully this week seek your will in all things. Be with our church board. Father, we've elected a church board, our membership has, of servant leaders to guide us, and I pray that you would be with them as they would meet this Tuesday, that there'd be a spirit of unity in whatever way you're leading, of clarity, of direction, because at the end of the day, our number one desire is to bring honor to Jesus Christ. So whatever would accomplish that the best, that's what we pray would happen. So guide us in these days, fill our hearts with hope, Help us to engage our minds, but also, Lord, help us to spend time in prayer and individual worship as we consider what you'd have for us at this opportunity for the days and the generations to come. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Well, I want to thank you for being here. God bless you. Hope to see you Wednesday evening at the FAQ meeting. And if not there, next Sunday. God bless. You're dismissed.